everyone, Denise Zack, Mindful Life Coach here. Just wanted to put a little video out on this Saturday afternoon in the midst of the coronavirus crisis and everything that people are dealing with at this time. It's been a rough couple of weeks and I think a little bit scary for a lot of people, especially for watching the news. And it's kind of hard not to watch it. It's kind of hard not to get wrapped up in all of the drama and all of the chaos that's being created by this very real concern for sure. But I also think that there's, in addition to the contagion of the virus, there is a contagion of panic going on at this time. And these are the moments when I practice mindfulness the most. These are the moments when I want to take a step back for myself and kind of look at how I'm operating in the world and look at how I am showing up to my day and just try to evaluate if I'm being rational, if I'm being over the top, if I'm being not those things, if I'm being more panicked, if I'm reacting from a more fearful part of me. And so I think one of the things that we can identify is that this contagion of panic, it definitely sparks and triggers that survival mechanism in all of us. This is, I think, why you're seeing people rushing to the stores and getting toilet paper and essentials and cleaning and all of these different kinds of supplies, because people are worried that they're not going to have enough, that they're not going to be able to survive. And that part of our brain is, and people who've taken mindfulness with me know that part of the brain is powerful. And when it is set off, the part of our brain that's logical is not online anymore, and it just shuts down. And so there's not a lot of logical thought that's going on. I think this is why you see people fight in the stores over that last roll of toilet paper, because the rational part of our brain is not showing up. And it leads us to feeling a little bit out of control, I think, at times, and where that feeling of anxiety just builds up inside of us. And then we get into this place where we start storytelling, kind of all of the what ifs, and what if this happens, and what if that happens, and what will I do if this occurs, and how do I manage when this happens? And all of those what ifs are living in the future. They're not present moment. And when I practice mindfulness, what I am trying to do is activate the part of my brain that is responsible for logical thinking. It's responsible for being able to look at a situation, evaluate it, and then determine how I want to respond, instead of seeing something and then reacting. When I just react like that, I'm allowing the amygdala, the survival mechanism part of my brain, to take control and to react. And sometimes that's necessary. Sometimes in our lives, that is necessary. In moments like this, I don't think it's super helpful. It's not a comfortable place to be, certainly. And I don't think it helps us to make the best decisions that we need to make for ourselves. I think it causes more widespread panic. And when our authorities and government officials are telling us not to panic, what they're essentially telling us to do is take a deep breath, take a step back, and really think about what it is that is going to be the most rational decision in this moment. We don't have a lot of control over what's happening right now, and we certainly need to use precautions. But I think the information that we're getting is pretty clear about how we can take those precautions, the things that we can do. And with that, I think we need to trust that information and then move forward. Now, certainly, things are changing hour to hour at this point. Maybe it feels like minute to minute. But for me, what I have found helpful is not watching the news all day long or checking in on my phone every 5 seconds to see what's happening this moment or this second, or what's being reported, because a lot of the stuff that we're getting tends to not even be necessarily, especially from social media, doesn't even necessarily tend to be accurate. It tends to be inflated, or the story that's being told is 10 people deep and the details have gotten morphed. And so when we get into this storytelling space, we hear a story and then we're telling ourselves a story, and then we get into that reactive space. It leads us to not be as rational as we can be. And so the way that I practice mindfulness is noticing how I'm feeling in that moment, really noticing, okay, how am I behaving right now? What am I feeling? Where do I notice that feeling in my body? And so for me, in the last few days, I've noticed a lot of tightness in my chest, even tightness in my throat, and I've felt sometimes pretty anxious. And I've noticed that the times when I felt most anxious were the times that I was watching the news and talking with someone else about all the things that could potentially go wrong, or listening to other people talk about everything that could go wrong. And that fueled that fear part of my brain and caused me to feel less in control, less calm, less balanced. And when those moments occur, that's what I'm saying to myself, okay, hang on a minute. I'm noticing tightness in the chest. What's going on right now in this moment that's making me feel that way? Okay, there's a news report. How much of this do I need to pay attention to? How much of it is valid? If watching it does nothing for me except make me feel worse, then it's probably not something that I should be watching. Yes, we need to be informed, of course. We don't want to put our heads in the sand. That's not going to be the answer. But what I'm saying is to be mindful about how much you allow in, how much of the influx, which is 24/7 at this point, influx of coronavirus story, news, reports, how much of that am I going to let in? How much of it is actually going to be helpful for me? And then how much is talking about it, thinking about it, and ruminating about it going to be helpful? And I would say that ruminating isn't really good for anyone. So I would suggest not doing that at all. But noticing, okay, am I thinking the world's going to end? Nothing is good. I'm going to get it. I'm going to die. Something terrible is going to happen. That's called rumination. That is called anxious, negative thought spiraling. And those are the times when I would encourage you to say, okay, hang on a minute. I'm thinking really negatively right now. I'm worrying about things that I really have no control over. If I get it, worrying about it now isn't going to help me. So instead of telling myself this negative story and spiraling into this hole of terror and fear and anxiety, what I'm going to do is maybe just listen to some calming music right now. I'm going to turn the TV off. I'm going to light a candle that smells great. Or I'm going to just play a game with one of my friends or my significant other or my kids, or I'm going to color, or I'm going to draw, I'm going to read my favorite book, or I'm going to catch up on something that I've wanted to do and haven't been able to do when I was working so much or have felt too busy. So I'm encouraging you to take a step back from yourself. Notice when you're negative storytelling. Notice when you're taking in too much of the information that's coming in. Remove yourself from what is not necessary. Catch yourself when you're being negative, change the narrative, and stay in the present moment. When you take a step back from yourself and you evaluate what you're doing in that moment, you are actually activating the part of the brain that is responsible for calming you down. When you activate the part of the brain that's responsible for calming you down, you actually send more blood flow to that part of the brain, which by default sends less blood flow to the part of the brain that wants to freak you out. So there is a method to my madness, or to my method. There's a method to the story, I guess. So my suggestion is to do that, is to pay attention, to be mindful, take some deep breaths, meditate, if it works for you, and try to distance yourself from the drama and the storytelling that can happen so easily in times like this. Be well. I'm going to try to check in every day, do a video every day. I'll do a live video hopefully tomorrow where I can answer some of your questions. Spend time with family and take care, everyone.